What's up, guys? Welcome to the Deadman's Triad Wrestling Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Gerard and Ron. I'm going to get the other two gentlemen in here with me. I got my other two hosts, fine hosts, Mr. Ronnie Anderson. We got Mr. Gerard Simonelli. Guys, we're on this is our episode number 1 debut. What's up, guys?
Hello, what's happening?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Good. Grab a cup of coffee. I know it's Sunday morning. If you guys are wrestling fans, you're gonna love the conversation. But I'm not used to doing podcasts in the morning. But I got my nice big mug here full of coffee, and I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm feeling better. Unfortunately, I had COVID, and I'm doing much better. And I figured, let's do the show because I miss doing the podcast. So. I'm ready for the show. I hope the fans are ready. Guys, if you like to chat with us during the show, we have a chat room. It's not much. Just go on Facebook or YouTube. Go on our Facebook page, Deadman's Triad Wrestling Podcast. Look us up on Facebook. Go on YouTube. Guys, please subscribe to the show. The little bell at the top right of the screen on YouTube, on our main YouTube channel. Click that little thing. We can also chat with you guys during the live feed of YouTube. I will see the questions. If you guys have questions about the topic that we have, I'll do my best to revert the question to the host. And I don't know. So, guys, I thought the topic for our premiere debut episode here, I thought, how about like wrestling versus today's wrestling versus old school wrestling and the internet? Because back in the old days, we didn't have the internet. And when the internet came out, it exploded like a whole new world for like wrestling fans. And there were like rampant rumors everywhere. It, created like a lot of different aspects of wrestling because I think do you guys think the internet helped wrestling or do you think it killed wrestling? Because a lot of old school guys don't like the internet. They think that a lot of the rumor killers hurt the wrestling business. What do you guys think of that?
I think the internet actually helped it. As far as old school and new school, I kind of laid out of wrestling after right around the John Cena era. I'm more the old school, but it's good to, internet helps me go back and look at some of the older wrestlers also, the when and where are they now and all that. So, I think internet actually helped wrestling out a lot. I think COVID kind of ruined it, but COVID's ruined everything.
Yeah, damn COVID.
Yeah, damn it.
Yeah, Gerard, what's your thoughts on the internet and the whole a lot of the promoters in the business I know don't like the internet because of it hurts like the surprise element, so to speak. That's kind of what I'm getting at, like as far as the internet, because I know it hurt a lot of the surprises that the wrestling companies try to come bring to the fans. And what are your thoughts on that, Gerard, with the internet and wrestling fans?
Personally, I like the internet myself. Again, like Ronnie says, old school. This is the way I grew up, watching on TV, and you wait week by week. What's good with the internet, you can watch it all the time now. So if you miss an event, I could watch it another day on the internet. That's what I like. As per some of the stuff, I don't like knowing behind the scenes of everything. The internet ruins it for a lot of the kids. Like, we're adults, so we understand it's all fake. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's not fake. It's real. I'm sorry. The kids today, you don't want them to know what's actually going on. You want them to understand like we grew up.
Yeah.
You want them to learn as we learned. I like the internet personally, and even with this COVID thing, I work nights, so I don't get to watch all my wrestling I want to watch. But I do watch it now, and I'm getting involved with it. All sports has no more fans. So now I'm at a point where I'm beginning to like it now. And if I see fans in the stands, I'm probably going to like it no more.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the fans to come back.
Yeah, I think they all are. I think they all, the fans are a huge part of wrestling because Let's face it, there's nothing like wrestling fans, especially old school wrestling fans. The newer generation of wrestling fans, for me, I don't like them. Like I've been to a couple of events, like recently in the last year or two. My brother-in-law, we went to a live WWE event, and I hated it because in my opinion, the newer wrestling generation fans have no clue like what they're missing, like from old school, but like just the rowdiness, the rudeness, and the fighting and the like. I don't know. It takes away the fun of you know the old school time going to a wrestling event. It's just not the same. I don't know. I think I rather prefer, believe it or not, I prefer to watch it on TV than to actually be there in person.
I don't know. You're talking to, I'm going to show my age here, but you're talking to a guy that's seen like Ricky Steamboat live and John Paul Jones, Tony Atlas. I seen all of those guys when I was a kid. And then later on around the NWO time, you never knew who was going to be out in the crowd. So when they mixed it up with the crowd, you never knew if Sting was going to come out or anybody. So I like the live crowds myself. That's what interests me, is being into the live in the live crowd back in the day, which I hadn't been to one in years. So I like the live crowd.
Yeah. Gerard, what do you think? As far as like, do you prefer watching it on TV more than being there at a live event? Like, what's your thoughts? Like, going to an event back in the day versus now, do you think it's definitely different from what it used to be, or?
Oh, 100%. When I used to go when I was like 7 years old, and we were front row seats, and they didn't have barricades, and we had Bruno Sammartino. See, now I'm going my age now. I had Bruno and Andre the Giant. You were meeting these guys, and they come out and they shake your hand right there. We used to run to the ring after the match. We used to run directly to the ring and get the autographs.
Yeah.
Now you can't do that. But I mean, I love going to live events. But some of the fans that go are obnoxious. And you just don't know why they're there. They're there. I don't know why they're actually there. Some of these fans.
Yeah.
I mean, we went down because we wanted to see the wrestlers. We were into the wrestlers. Some of the new wrestling today, I like what they do. But again, like old school, I still think if you put them up against each other, I think old school would definitely take out the new guys.
Oh yeah. They were more real men. They were more real men. Nowadays, I don't know. They're a bunch of kids.
They were strong. They were strong, fat guys. They drank, they wrestled, and they were cool. These guys now, all muscle bound. I'm not saying how they get there, but it's all about their body, what they look like. And people look at them and say, "Oh, this is what they're supposed to look like." No, wrestlers are wrestlers. Guys are just big brawlers.
I like to think that there's like, you know how even in the workforce, like today, like older generation and newer generation are totally different. Back then, you earned your time, like you earned your status because of how you worked, and you had to work hard from the bottom up. And they had all these different tournaments, they had all these different titles and everything. They had really cool tournaments back in the day, but you earned your spot, in the division that you wrestled in. But now it seems like all you need is a good storyline, a good gimmick, and as long as you can present yourself on TV and the storyline well, it seems like these guys get titles handed to them, and you have this entitlement era where everybody thinks they're entitled to a title. But when I grew up, watching these guys wrestle back in the day, they had to earn their spot, and it's not like that as much anymore. It's very different as far as like the title reigns and stuff. It just seems like everybody just gets a title, no matter height, no matter what size they are, no matter what their status is in the business. Like it just seems like the titles are handed out too easily, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's probably basically, maybe it has something to do with the internet, that the people want to see these people with a belt. So that's how they do it. They create the storylines and all for this certain person to get a belt, because that's what the people want. Back in the day, they, like you said, they worked their way up and then they wrestled for.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all these high flying acrobats and all this. I mean, they came along probably more in the 90s, I would say. And that was cool and people wanted to see it. But to me, I'm like the old school guys that got in there and they just brawled and beat each other up.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you a fun story. We have a venue here in Lynchburg. It's called our Lynchburg Armory. And back in the day, in the 70s, they would have wrestling matches every few months. And Flair would be here. You know, some Ricky Steamboat, Jay Youngblood, they would all come in and wrestle. And after the match one night, we stopped at a store right across the river. And I think Wahoo McDaniels and Ric Flair were in there buying beer. And we happened to walk in and got to meet them. You know, they would hang out in the city, go to the bar. I don't know what these new guys do. You know, they go back home and do whatever they do to get big, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now, you know, of course, you have, you know, the supplement, like the whole steroid thing. Remember back in the 80s, going into the 90s, steroids was like a huge thing, and you had guys that were like skinny little nothing, and then all of a sudden they were like massive out of nowhere. And a couple guys in mind, like look at Jinder Mahal, for example. Like Jinder Mahal went from the 3-man band kind of thing, like that whole gimmick with Heath Slater, and then he was like a nobody, and he was like little, and then all of a sudden, like when he became Jinder Mahal, the guy was a monster. And you know, you have all these like supplements and stuff that these guys take, and it's like you know, I get the whole training thing and everything. You know, it's a lot different back then, training and what they get into and how it weights and stuff. But the stuff these guys take, they're all monsters. They're huge.
Look at Scott Hall.
Eddie
Scott Hall?
Scott Hall?
Big Pop Pump.
Yeah.
Eddie Guerrero did the same thing. He took off. I know he got injured at one point, but he took off for 6 to 8 months. He came back. He was cut up. He wasn't the same Eddie Guerrero.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, no, guys. I just real quick want to point out to our audience, if there are any live technical issues that we don't know about, let us know. Message us. Go in the chat either on Facebook or YouTube. Can't exactly listen to ourselves live, otherwise it would sound terrible. But I believe I corrected the the echoing that I had when we did our little introduction podcast there. Gerard and I were testing things out the last time, a couple weeks ago. There was some like stuff going on, but I'm hoping that it all worked out. Let us know either way. Give us a message on Facebook or whatever. Either way that you can. If you have a way to message any of us, let us know how we sound, how we look, how the video and audio is. Just let us know either way. Feedback would be great. Guys, if you have questions in the chat, just throw them in there. There's really nobody in there right now, but I guess we'll just continue on with the conversation. But we're kind of going back and forth about how the internet has affected wrestling, the newer generation of fans versus the older generation of fans. We're talking about a little bit, the difference of what it was like going back to an old school event versus now. I don't like it as much these days. I would prefer to watch it on TV. But now with the whole COVID thing that's going on, what do you guys think of the whole WWE Thunderdome thing? At first, I hated the crap out of it, but now I'm like, because I don't like going in person these days, like to a live event. I kind of like it.
I hate it.
You hate it?
Well, like I said, I'm just getting back into the new stuff, so
yeah,
it's got to grow on me, I guess.
What I miss now is I like the idea when they used to go into the audience and fight with the fans. That's the one thing I miss. I don't miss the fans personally. Even I watch sports, hockey, football, and without the fans, it don't make a difference to me with baseball because I watch the game. But the wrestling itself, it's more fun when they get in the fans and then they get thrown on to people. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But this here now,
you never know who's going to come out of the crowd.
Yeah, and what I do like with the promoting with this wrestling now, they're very smart. They use the monitors, and there's live people and the monitors.
Mm-hmm.
They just know what they're doing. It's amazing how they're making money on this business at the same time.
Yeah. Wow.
But you watch the other sports. They have like these wooden figures out there, like stick figure. You watch the football and hockey, and it has like the people out there. It's like the billboard
Cardboard
people,
stand-up.
cardboard people. But the WWE, they're very smart, and they're using monitors. So the people actually, and it's funny, and you can see them in the audience, and it's interesting watching them. You're watching the wrestlers watching them, and they're getting into it, and they're moving around like this, and it's fun watching it. But I do miss actually fans, otherwise, to an extent.
You don't really see the newer generation of wrestlers really interact with the fans as much as they used to back in the day. That used to happen a lot more back in the day because, like Ronnie was saying, you just never knew who used to come out in the stand because of that, that whole element of surprise thing.
It's about money.
Yeah.
You have to pay now to see these people. You got to pay. Back in the days, I'm telling you, we used to go to Sunnyside Gardens. I told Matt this a while ago. And after the matches, you walk back a ramp, and there's a black curtain. You open the curtain, and there's a bar back there, and all the wrestlers who just wrestled or going to wrestle will be sitting there. And you walk up to them with a pen and paper, and they'll sign an autograph, not ask a question. Now, Jesus Christ, you go to get that, you got to pay. You got to stand a long line. It's crazy. It's not fair for the fans, I believe.
No.
Yeah.
And we're the people who are paying them.
And tickets then, I think it was like $6 a piece, a ticket, $10.
Yeah.
Now you go to a wrestling event, you're spending a minimum of $60 minimum, and that's probably a lot more than that at this point. And you're getting nosebleed seats.
Oh yeah. I remember going to an event with my in-laws one time, and my friend and I wanted to get a beer, and you spent like $12 for one glass of beer. And back in the day, it was like $6 for a glass of beer, but now, like, forget about it. Yeah, at the end of the night, you're spending like, if you bring your friends or family, you're spending like $300 at the end of the night. But those are the arenas. The arenas have really, jacked up the prices on the concession stands and the alcohol and the food but yeah, the tickets themselves used to be cheaper back in the day, but now forget it. You're lucky you can even get a good seat.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah,
it's more expensive, and people are paying, so why not?
Yeah. They'll pay for it. I mean, if they want to go, they'll go. They'll find a way to do it. But I remember back in the day when before Vince McMahon bought out WCW, and WCW had Monday Nitro, and they had the Monday Night Wars. Now, I grew up in wrestling where wrestling was prime, when they had that whole Monday Night War thing. But what was great is Monday Nitro never came to a Nassau Coliseum event here on Long Island. And friends of mine and myself were excited that we heard they were coming to Nassau Coliseum, and they were having their first Nassau Coliseum event. But you had to wait online for hours. Like, the wrestling fans back then, the lines were like down the street, and people couldn't wait to get tickets. And you actually had to spend sometimes overnight to get tickets. And you were sitting there, and you would bring your chairs, and you throw a tailgate party, so to speak, in the park a lot while you're waiting, to get tickets and stuff. But I never actually, like, when that happened, we got tickets. I was ready to go, but I had a car accident the following week, so I couldn't go. I was so disappointed, but my friends went, and they were able to go see the very first Monday Nitro event at Nassau Coliseum, which was cool.
Nice.
Hey, well, now that here you go with the internet, it's easy to get tickets now.
Oh, I was going to say that. That's one thing.
You didn't have to stand in line.
Yeah. Yeah, and the scouters make it easier now too. Of course, whatever, if you could find a scout, then you just buy it from them, and sometimes you get a better deal. Yep. So, but yeah, I this whole WWE Thunderdome thing, I'm still getting used to it. To me, they stole the idea from the movie Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, in my opinion.
Remember the movie Mad Max? Was Road Warrior?
Yeah.
It was supposed to be set in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yep. So we're in the era now where that's happening.
I tell you, these movie producers and writers, when they make movies like that, maybe they knew some shit was going down.
Yeah, we were talking about Back to the Future yesterday about the Twin Pines Mall, and then after he run over the pine in the car, it was Lone Pines Mall. Yeah, that people knew something back in the day.
Yeah. I know. I tell my wife that the other day. I was like, all of a sudden, cable is showing all these like end of the world apocalyptic movies. I said, what the hell is going on?
It feels like it.
I know. So, I don't know, but I don't know. We're having a good time here on Deadman's Triad Wrestling Podcast. I hope the name isn't too hard for people to kind of like get into, but I don't know. We were trying to think of different names before starting this. We came up with Deadman's 3, and I said, why not something a little different? Call it Deadman's Triad. Try to stand out a little bit, but you have 3 guys here from different generations of wrestling, so it's going to be a really fun podcast. I really hope everybody can tune in each week as we have different topics. Going to try to have wrestlers as guests from time to time, but there are hard times out there these days. I tried getting a couple of guys, but they want this. Unfortunately, we're not a podcast that makes money. I tried to get Raven. Raven wanted like $250 for like 45 minutes. I don't know if I could afford that.
Yeah. It is hard times, and nobody does anything for free anymore.
Yeah. You guys remember Raven?
Oh,
Yep.
I do.
Yeah. He was a couple of gimmicks in WWE before he actually went to revamp it or reinvent himself before going to ECW. But I think ECW actually helped his career a lot. It gave him that whole Raven gimmick, and I think it did actually better for him.
Yeah, I liked him. I liked his style.
Yeah. And then you had what was it, the Itch, what was that kid that followed him around, and he joined the Flock in WCW when he went over to WCW from ECW.
Not Mikey Whiplash. Not Mikey Whiplash. Was you with him?
Whiplash. I do remember him. No, there was another kid that was a high flyer that was up and coming. I can't remember his name. I'm gonna have to look it up. I know there's like so many different guys that come and go. But yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember. Kidman. There you go.
Billy Kidman.
Yeah. But what'd you guys? All right. So factions back in the day versus now. Factions aren't as successful now as they were back in the day. Where do you think the failure of factions come in today versus back then? Factions were very big back then. They were very successful depending on what guys they had in their faction. What are your thoughts on the factions, guys?
I'm gonna say old school was the best. They had the best, like the NWO. They're the ultimate.
Yeah, 4 Horsemen.
And the 4 Horsemen. I'll go. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying not to make myself look so old here.
I'll put the Shield in. How's the Shield sound?
The Shield.
They came in with a fist.
Yeah, I like the Shield. It had really good potential, but of course, in my opinion, WWE kills really good ideas for factions today. Like they've had promising factions. They had guys like, remember when they had Rusev, Sheamus, and a couple other guys? It was like a tribal kind of faction. I don't remember the name they had, but it was a really, really good faction, and they could have ran with that really good. But then they kill it. Like what's wrong with them?
I don't know, but I don't know if it's McMahon doing it now. Like you said, you have a great something, and I don't know if they run out of storylines or something or somewhere to go with it. But you have something good, you got to keep writing it in.
I think DX was it.
Well, DX came in at a really good time because you had the NWO going on in WCW. and DX just started around when the NWO was just starting around, and I think that was perfect timing for them to start DX, and it really propelled Triple H's career if you think about it.
Even Shawn Michaels too.
Yeah,
Shawn Michaels did that too.
Yeah. Yep. But
do you think that they run out of like opponents? Maybe, you sign all these guys to, like, I'm gonna go back to NWO. Everybody was coming in, joining NWO, and then you had, they were just steamrolling everybody, and they ran out of people to the opponent. So maybe they didn't write the storylines right, where they disbanded them or something. Sting eventually came into the NWO when he was against them, and that was the big show.
Yeah.
How they were bullying everybody, and they needed that one savior. And Sting came in. The next thing you know, Sting is black and white. He's in the NWO.
Right. Yeah. Yep. That
DX,
was.
Didn't DX go against Shawn Michaels? Or he never? No, Shawn Michaels is in DX. I'm getting lost here. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, yeah, no, there was like a split at one point. I remember them doing a storyline of splitting DX up, and there was a couple of them went their different ways. But you had in DX you had Shawn Michaels, Triple H, you had China, you had the New Age, X-Pac, you had the New Age Outlaws. I remember when the New Age Outlaws first joined DX, I thought that whole storyline, them pushing Cactus Jack and Terry Funk off the stage in the dumpster, was great. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What did they call Terry Funk when he came into the WWE around that time? What was it? Charlie Chainsaw. What was it? Charlie Chainsaw, or something to do with the chainsaw?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, I mean, factions, again, they were big back in the day. You had the Four Horsemen. I remember Gerard brought up a really good faction. Remember the Von Erichs? Yep.
Good family.
Yep. Von Erich family. You had the Samoans were very big back then. The Islanders. You had Fatu and a lot of those.
Sika.
Yep. A lot of those
But
guys.
if you look at the Samoans, their whole family's still wrestling.
Yeah.
From Roman Reigns down to his nephews all the way down. This family's gone forever. The Rock, or Rocky Johnson.
Yeah.
They're all everything one after another. They're very famous and excellent wrestlers. They're really good wrestlers on top of it.
Yeah. The Usos.
And good showmen. They're really good showmen. They put a good show on.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I think that's the key to it all too. Your abilities and your showmanship. That sells the tickets.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean they bring in guys I think that are the most like horrible on the mic. Like they're good in the ring, but they can't do anything on the mic, or vice versa. And like the company tries to like make up for it, but they repackage some of these guys over and over, and there's only so much repackaging of a person's gimmick that you can do, and I think it kills that career, so to speak.
Oh, all you have to do is read now. Stone Cold had scripts that he said that the writers, McMahon, would make, give him a script, and he was like, "No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say this."
Yeah.
So basically, all they have to do is read now.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. Like, and the writers in WWE today, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, they suck. They're horrible. My brother-in-law constantly ripping on them for, like, they have potential good storyline, but then they ruin it. They either kill it too early, they end it abruptly, or like it's just so horrible where it's like not doing anything for them and it kills their rating. But yeah, the storylines are just like insanely terrible.
Well, maybe one of you two can answer this question. If a wrestler is wrestling and they're champion, and they can go on and not lose a match. It goes on for months and months and months, and then when they lose the title, they seem like they can never win another match. You ever notice that the champions, they go up there, like back in the days especially, they win, and all of a sudden, as soon as they lose the title, they seem like they never get another title shot, and if they do, and they just can't seem to win all of a sudden.
Well, if I can intervene real quick with that, Gerard, I think there's a lot of factors involved with that. I think depending how they carry themselves professionally backstage and how they perform in the ring affects their ability to continue that status in the ring. And, you know, if they win a title, they lose it, and there could be an underlying injury that we don't know about that they're trying to wrestle through. There's a lot of different factors I think that are involved as far as that goes. But I think depending on how some wrestlers generate their professionalism behind the scenes, because that, again, the internet, you can read up on, you know, why certain guys aren't on television and why, you know, they get this push and then all of a sudden they don't. You know, I think those are those factors that are involved, because there's some guys that don't know how to carry themselves well professionally, and they get heat from the promoters that are trying to help promote them, and they're going to miss that sale of opportunity for other, you know, really good matches or title shot because of how they carry themselves. And there's quite a few that don't have that ability to carry themselves on a professional level.
I think it might be the progression of the shows and everything. Also, they may be trying to keep it fresh, and if somebody else comes in and maybe, you know, your fan base, if your fan base jumps on this guy because they beat that guy, and, you know, like I said, that's what's going to sell your tickets, then they might move on. But I think, you know, I never thought about, you know, the behind the scenes professional deal.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably a lot of it too. I've read things about that too.
Yeah.
Where,
yeah.
you know, you're a wrestler, you're a champ, and behind the scenes or either outside of the events, you can't carry yourself like a professional. Yeah, that sounds good too.
Yeah.
That's why the internet ruins it for us, because then now you know the storyline before it's coming a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one thing bad about the internet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you try to just say, why did you lose the title for? Now, like, oh, this is why, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can't believe the internet because there's so many freaking lies on the internet.
Oh, forget it.
You don't know to believe anymore.
Right.
Oh, on the internet, you're supposed to believe it. It's true.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And plus, I hear a lot of times Vince McMahon changes things on the fly, like the night of or even the night before, and nobody knows anything. And it sometimes makes the situations very awkward in front of the camera, because they have to kind of like rely on the writers, and if they're not good on the mic and they have to rely on a good script, if McMahon is changing things drastically in the very, very last minutes right before the night of the show, that could hurt somebody on camera, and that can make things look bad too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
what's
so
a
you're
good
saying you
example
called an audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I hear that a lot. I hear McMahon is always changing things last minute. And, like, for example, Goldberg and, Drew McIntyre, they're having a match now, I believe, at the Royal Rumble. And that was decided at the very last minute. But the promo that they were doing on Monday Night Raw, I heard, was awkward because they changed things at the last minute. So what they had planned, they had to change, and I guess they didn't know how to execute that change.
Well, now we don't know why they're doing a change, because with this virus going on, people are probably popping in and out. They don't know at this point. So you don't know anything could be coming on.
Yeah, and Drew McIntyre, from what I heard, unfortunately, he was tested positive for COVID, and he's the current champion for WWE right now. And I think he's on a great run. I love the fact that this guy, he's one of the few that's really worked from the bottom and worked his way up. He came from being like a jobber to like this top guy, and he's kind of like what I'm getting at, like with some of the guys I talked about earlier on in the show, that where there's very few that work really hard at where they need to get and where they are now. And Drew McIntyre, to me, has shown that. He is like one of those guys that work really hard at what he does, and it shows. You can see how much it shows, and his career has changed drastically in just the last year or so. He's had an amazing career so far.
You know what would have been a good match? You put him against Nash, back in both in their primes. You got two big dudes. They're both not super muscle bound, and they're not, they're good wrestlers. Those two have been a good match, I believe.
Yeah.
You talk about changing the script at the last minute. How about like the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels match?
Oh yeah,
controversy with that
Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah.
I know. Well, in my opinion, I thought it was horrible what McMahon did to Bret Hart. I think Bret Hart carried the company for that time period while all those transitions of wrestlers were leaving and going to WCW. McMahon was relying on Bret Hart to be his top guy, and all these changes were going on with the company, and I think they knew that maybe his contract was up, and they didn't renew anything, and they kind of had a feeling that he was going to jump ship and go with Eric Bischoff, and he changed things at the last minute because let's face it, McMahon screwed him, and everybody knows that he screwed him, and yet McMahon turned the whole thing around to make it look like Bret Hart screwed himself. But that's not in my opinion. I was a huge Bret Hart fan, and I think he screwed Bret Hart.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
I love to hear the story about what happened after it. How Bret Hart, I think he said he punched Jim McMahon after the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he screwed him big time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, he was the one that had the torch handed over to him to be that top guy for WWE in that time period. And I guess that's where McMahon becomes ruthless, because like if you do something that pisses him off, he does things like that, and I don't think that's right.
No.
But
he owns the company. He does what he wants to do when he wants to do it.
Honestly, I can't wait until he passes the torch to his kids, because I think things need to change before the company goes really downhill in ratings.
I don't think it's going to drop. He knows what he's doing. He's doing this for years, and he's a good promoter. That's the sad part. Yeah, he's really good. He knows what he's doing.
I mean, he does, but I don't know. Some of the things that I've seen change with him, like again, there's been really good potential, a lot of good storylines and stuff, and then they change because of him, and it's like I think to myself, why do you have to feel the need to change those things on the fly like that when things have potential to do really well? Like my brother-in-law, like we sit here all the time. We can write better than those guys because we're old school, long time wrestling fans. We know what storylines work from back in the day versus what storylines don't work now. I'm not saying writing is tough. I can't write a book for my life of me. I've tried writing. I can't imagine what it's like to write a whole storyline out to appease a fan base like that. But the writing it's horrible, and a lot of it is because of McMahon.
Yeah. That's like I seen an interview, like I said, with Stone Cold, and he said that he was giving him back in the beginning, giving him scripts that he said, I'm not going to say this. And, McMahon would get pissed off, but he would go out and say what he wanted to say. And that's what made wrestling. You can tell when they're reading from these crappy scripts, and you can tell when it's sincere. And that's what people want to see, the real fight in the wrestlers, not something manufactured.
Right.
So, yeah, McMahon, he knows what he's doing. You can't say he don't.
Oh yeah, I'm not taking his credit away from him at all. Don't get me wrong. I believe he's made WWE what it is today because of him. There's no doubt about that. I'm not taking that away from him. But my point is, there are a lot of good potential things that go on, and I don't think he realizes that when he does those changes last minute, that you have a fan base that may like those things that are going on. But to me, you should be changing things because of the fans. You shouldn't be changing things because of the company. The fans change the most frequent as far as generation of fans go. So I think you should be trying to make the fans more happier rather than keeping your you can keep your company happy in different ways, but you know what I'm getting at? I don't know if that makes sense, but you should try to make your fans happy. And I feel like they don't.
The fans pay the bills.
Right, exactly. We're the ones that paying their salaries.
I understand that.
Yeah. I have
by him changing things around, he's pushing fans out, but he's also bringing in new fans. But then the old fans like us will go back and watch it again. So now the ones that got pushed out are still going to come back because there's nothing else to watch.
Yeah.
So he's building at the business, and I understand what he's doing. We don't like it, but
yeah.
But I told you a while back when he changed it from WWF to WWE, was all about the entertainment. And remember, wrestling used to come at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, right?
Right.
And after 9 to 10, then it got a little more raunchier, more blood was coming out. But by him changing it into an entertainment, it's now a reality TV show where he can get away with it from the beginning, from 8 to 9 o'clock now.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they changed it from Wrestling Federation to entertainment.
Well, I think they realize that there are a lot of younger people that watch now, so they got to be careful how much raunchy stuff that they show in front of the younger audience. So they have to kind of they went from PG to PG-13, and they have to watch what they do now, and they have to be careful what they say or how with the blood and all that. That's definitely changed. There's a lot less of that for sure. But I get it. I do. I really, but again, to make my point even more valid, look at the tag teams, for example. Okay. They've had great tag team divisions over the years. They've had great tag teams come and go, but they split them up and then they go single competition, and then their tag team division becomes non-existent. And it's why do they break these guys up when they have a good run? And the Viking guys, for example, what have they been doing? Nothing. Right. And they had a great, tag team title run. And I thought they had potential to be a great tag team. They reminded me a lot of Demolition. And they reminded me a lot of a combination of the Road Warriors and Demolition. Mm-hmm. And you had great tag teams back in the day, and they have great tag teams now, but then they split them up. Why do you split them up?
Nope, I don't have a clue.
It sounds like a wrestling match over there. I hear dishes being clanked.
Oh, that's my wife. I'm sorry.
I was like, there's a match back there. Dishes being thrown.
Yeah, she'll throw one or two every now and then.
If you ever notice, every so often I was looking over to the right because I have a cuckoo clock. If it was going to go off, I was going to tell her, don't ask me a question. I got to move for 12 seconds. But I turned off the cuckoo.
You were talking about the WWE and the WWF. Wasn't the World Wildlife Federation suing him for the acronym or something? So he had to change it?
Yeah, they had to change it because of that. But I also think McMahon changed it to the entertainment part because I think he realized that they had to expand past what they had. And wrestling to him was becoming more of entertainment. And I think that's where WWE fell into that category because of how they were changing from wrestling to entertainment. Therefore, they could use more of the storyline and all the other stuff that they do. And I hate to say it, but the old school wrestling fan loves a wrestling match. They don't want to watch a storyline. They want to watch a good wrestling match. And I think you can have a combination of both, but they keep taking away from the focus of the wrestling. And because some of these wrestlers, they have great potential, but their gimmicks are terrible because of the writing and how they're booked in the wrestling match. They can't perform that gimmick because it's terrible and it takes away from the wrestling match.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of there's a whole lot of the I understand the gimmick part of it, that sells, but there's too much in between the actual wrestling too. I mean, you'll watch a show, it might have 4 matches a night. If you're watching an hour show, 2-hour show might have 6 or 7, and all this in between. Like you said, when people want to see the matches, they do want to. The storyline comes in and makes the match, I believe, because you want to know why these two guys hate them, or the two factions hate each other. But it's still too much. It needs to be more wrestling in there, more of the matches in there.
Man, we used to go wrestling, and we used to get the wrestling card, and every match only went 10 minutes long. Anything past 10 minutes, it's a draw, period. And they wrestled. The interviews didn't last 30-minute interviews.
Right.
You ever watch wrestling? You put it on, and now you watch it, and the first 15 minutes is the guy's talking.
Mm-hmm.
And then about the wrestling, another guy comes out and talks. Like, I don't want you to talk. I want to see the wrestling. Like you said, you want to see the wrestling. That's the idea.
Yeah.
You call him an asshole, and you call him an asshole, and y'all get in there and work it out. I don't want to see all this talking and yakking.
Yeah.
We're going to sign a contract signing. Who cares about contract signing? Or they have the shows now. They set the chairs up in the rings, and they hang out, and we'll have a talk session.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a talk session halfway through a match, in the middle of a wrestling thing.
Yeah.
I'm paying $80-$100 for a ticket not to see you talk.
Yeah.
Right.
And then that's the other problem I see in today's wrestling too, is the booking of the match itself. There are sometimes there are wrestlers who could put on a great match, but then there are two guys who can put on a terrible match, and that's the part where the ratings, it hurts the rating, because if you have two guys that can't carry a match together, then that's the person's fault of whoever made that match, from whoever books their matches. I don't know who behind the scene exactly is their booking person, but then you think to yourself, who's that guy who put those two idiots together who can't perform a good wrestling match? But then again, the storyline, that's where the storyline can make up for it, because then if it's a good storyline, you don't focus too much on that wrestling match because it was the storyline that kind of helped that put that together. But there are just some matches sometimes where I'm like, what the hell were they thinking putting these two guys together?
Yep. The undercards are terrible too. I know they got to start somewhere, but they're terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have a great roster right now. They have a huge talent pool, and these writers and these guys who book the matches don't know how to book these guys, and when they do, they make them look terrible. And I'm sorry, but some of these, like for example, look at Aleister Black. Aleister Black is a great potential main event, character, and they were pushing him, but then they dropped the ball. And I think, in my opinion, he is a guy that is not because of the behind-the-scene factors, but I think that's where WWE drops the ball on the potential.
Yeah. I agree with that too.
Yeah.
Now, Ronnie, you watched wrestling for years, Ronnie, right? Now, you remember years ago, you watch a match, it would be a good wrestler against a scrub.
Yeah.
You knew who was going to win the match.
Yeah.
But when you had the opportunity and the good wrestler fights a good wrestler, that's the match you wanted to see.
Yeah.
Now it's not like that no more. Now it's just a good wrestler against a good wrestler. That's a good wrestler. There's no now you have to guess who's going to win.
Right.
Who's the fan favorite to win this one?
Yep.
That's one thing I like about what they're doing now with this, but they're making the matches way too long.
Oh yeah.
You could hit. I remember years ago. Was it Bob Backlund? He'd do the atomic knee drop, pin, done.
Yep.
Hulk Hogan, big leg drop, done. Now it's like guy he gets hit in the head with the chair 15, 20 times, and he comes back and wins the match.
Yeah.
Well,
It's taking the realness out of it. Is what it's doing.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they would brawl. It was a fight, and then your signature move, you were out. Whoever got it first. And now, you can throw your signature move, or somebody will kick out of something that after they've been hit by a chair 15 times. You're not kicking out of that.
No.
And it's just they're all too long. Your main events, maybe I could see them going a little longer. Undertaker, Mankind kind of thing, but they're too long. And then, like you said, everything in between is way too long.
The last one they had a graveyard match. Was the last match that Undertaker had?
Yeah.
He had a graveyard match, and they were fighting in a cemetery. A coffin match, but ambulance match. Now, you watched the ambulance match? The last one was I forgot which one it was, and they were back and forth with the ambulance, closing doors on heads and everything else, and body slams on it. And it turns around, the one guy, I forgot who won the match. Was it Edge? Was that the match with Edge and
I believe it was.
And Orton?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember how many times you get body slammed on top of an ambulance? Doors on it's like,
yeah. I don't know. It like I said, it's taken. I want to see the matches. I want to see good wrestler and good wrestler. I mean, the only time a scrub wrestler is when Goldberg was introduced. He was the guy nobody knew, and he came out and he took. I can't even remember who he took out first, but then he went for that long span undefeated, got his name out there. But I want to see two good wrestlers wrestle, and I want to see them brawl like the old days.
You're not going to see that happen.
Yeah. What do you guys think of how Goldberg is now versus his prime year? Do you think WWE is hurting that lore that he had, or do you think he's still carrying himself as the way he used to? Because I remember now, like when he had the match with Lesnar, it was like an 18-second match, and like the first match, obviously, he won the title from him, and it was like 1, 2, 3 over. These guys can't carry matches like they used to, even though they're still big and powerful looking, and they still have that momentum of fan base that love these guys, but they can't carry a good match because they last 18 seconds and it's over.
Well, they're getting older.
Yeah.
I will have to give them that. And they put their body through tons and tons of.
Well, father years, yeah.
Yeah. And I just don't think they can do it anymore. There's a time when you need that, just, retire.
Yeah.
But Goldberg was a stud. And Brock Lesnar, I mean, the size of that guy.
Yeah.
How can you make him such a loser all the time? I mean, he wins a belt, but still.
Well,
me, as a fan going out there and saying nobody's going to beat that dude. He's just a tank.
Lesnar is is one of the top heated and most hated wrestlers. But you have to give credit where credit is due because he's been kind of like loyal to Vince McMahon for many, many years. Over the years, he's been their main eventer. And that's why I think they continue to give him the title over and over. It's because of the loyalty he's given to the company. And, he draws a lot of people. He brings in a lot of fans. As much as you hate the guy, a lot of the people still love him no matter what, because you want to see that type of main event level of, the main event matches that he's been able to put on, especially for his age now. I don't know how old Lesnar is, but I think he's got to be in his 40s now. But I mean, I hated Lesnar. Like when he came back and they kept giving him the title over and over and over, I hated it, but then I understood it because there wasn't anybody who could carry the company like he did. And even though there were guys that could do a main event like Roman Reigns, Goldberg was coming back. You had Braun Strowman, you had the Fiend, you have a couple Seth Rollins, a couple of big main event guys that could carry the title for a while, but not like in the way Lesnar was able to. And I think that's why they kept giving him the title over and over again, is because of the way he was able to carry that title for them. And for the simple fact that he's a big part-time champion, the way he carried the company part-time, but then he generated a lot of animosity from the guys in the locker room because they hated the fact that they kept giving him the title on a part-time basis.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I knew he was loyal to McMahon, but I don't know. He just seemed like the ultimate wrestler right now in the more modern day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. But, I don't know. Gerard, you a Lesnar fan?
I always like Lesnar.
Yeah.
I just like him. Again, like Ronnie said, I can't see Lesnar losing a match, period.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody could actually beat him, but he suplexes everybody nonstop. He grabs them and throws them all over the place.
Yeah.
And him to lose a match, it's just like Goldberg took him off guard. Okay, just say if that happened, he got charged, taken down, but I see Lesnar guy hopping up very fast.
Yeah.
They make him go down and like he got knocked out. His wing get knocked out of that guy. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Like Lesnar can wrestle. He, for some reason, they just allow him to only do like certain amount of moves, with these superplexes and a spear here and there, or body slam here and there. They brawl, with him a little bit, but he knows how to wrestle because back in the day he had great matches with like Kurt Angle. He did have good matches with Goldberg, and Lesnar was a great wrestler for his time, but now they just seem like to focus on only, all right, let's do a couple suplex, 13 times, and then he's not going to get up no more, and then that's it.
He reminds me of the old Sid Vicious. Sid Vicious should have been a lot better than what his role was. I was a big Sid Vicious fan. Everybody hated him.
Yeah, I remember Sid Vicious. Yeah, he was a pretty good. He was a good power wrestler. He did the power bomb very well.
He was a beast.
Yeah,
but
his
character kind of hit a brick wall to me. He should have done more.
Oh, I agree. He wasn't very good at being a good baby face, but I think he was a great heel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite wrestlers, Ivan Koloff.
Ivan Koloff.
Remember him?
Oh,
I've
yeah.
seen him wrestle.
If you watch, just go back and check some matches, and he was a big, strong dude. He had his Russian bear hug.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But he'd come out. His moves, he moves so slow, but yet you couldn't knock him over. He was like a tank.
You guys remember John Paul Jones?
Yep.
Back in the day, I seen Koloff and John Paul Jones and Ricky Steamboat teamed up. I can't remember. Baron von Raschke, maybe.
I
was a
remember
kid, but I seen them wrestle once before.
Yeah.
In some tag team match back in the 70s.
And back then, I used to even like Stand Man Stasiak.
Yeah.
He used to do the heart punch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to ban it because he's punching everybody. And he says he's giving everybody heart attacks.
Yeah. And of course, speaking of heart attacks, we could forget, the whole Eddie Guerrero heart attack that happened right after that big main event he had. And he had a heart attack right in the ring, basically. And after that, it was just downhill. God rest his soul. But I thought Eddie Guerrero was a great wrestler.
Oh yeah, I liked Eddie.
Yeah.
I think Eddie could have competed with the 70s.
Oh,
Oh,
definitely.
Yeah, he had the moves. He was a high flyer, but yet he can wrestle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like, you remember Dean Malenko?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He was another wrestler who was technical moves. And him and Jericho were like the two technicians, right?
Yeah.
I think Guerrero, what was he, the man of 1,000 holds that they called him or something? Or
Oh,
Something like
that was Dean Malenko.
Dean Malenko, yeah.
Yeah.
But him, Guerrero, and Jericho were good wrestlers at that point in that
Yeah.
type of wrestling. And I think they could have competed against like Bruno and them. I don't know how good they would have done, but it was just they would have held their own.
Yeah. Remember the Radicals? And it was Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and Dean Malenko. That was the Radicals.
Mm-hmm.
No, Chris Benoit was another great wrestler.
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
You know,
Really
it was sad what he
tragic.
did. You know, I was surprised he did what he did,
Yeah.
but it's just we don't know behind the scenes what goes on with their lives. We have no
Yeah.
idea.
Well, him and Chris Benoit, if anybody watched the docuseries Dark Side of the Ring, I recommend it. It's a really good series. I believe they're working on coming out with season 3. I'm not sure when it's coming out or if it is out, but the first 2 seasons, they covered a lot of great wrestlers. But they talk about a lot of that behind-the-scenes stuff that I talk about. But there's a lot of things I learned that I never knew about. So it's a really good education as far as learning about wrestlers' past and, you know, what they were into or not into. And they get really in depth with what happened with Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. They were pretty much grew into the business like brothers. You know, they were so close, and they traveled the road together. They did everything together, you know, with both their families. They were very close with their families. And when the tragedy happened with Eddie Guerrero, things went downhill for Chris Benoit because he couldn't live his life without him. And, you know, that was his brother. And basically, you know, that was when, you know, the murder-suicide thing happened with Chris Benoit, the tragic thing that happened with his family. And, you know, with woman and, you know, what happened with, you know, in their home and stuff. I won't get into details, but, yeah, watch Dark Side of the Ring. Dark Side of the Ring is a very good show. Chris Jericho, believe it or not, narrates it.
Oh really?
Yeah, he has a big part of. He has a big part of it. I believe, as far as help producing the show. But I definitely, you know, go check out Dark Side of the Ring. It's cool. But hey, guys, we're at the bottom of the hour already. It's 12:30. I don't know. I think we've had a really good show. Guys, any last thoughts of what we talked about? Any closing thoughts, Ronnie?
Nope. I think this first episode was a good start. I know
Yeah.
there's a lot more topics I would like to get out there and discuss, like everybody's favorite wrestler. Maybe talk about some of our past wrestlers that's gone on and some of their deals. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Gerard, last thoughts?
Excellent show. It was a good show. Everything worked out perfect. And like I said, but whoever's listening or watching, continue watching wrestling. You have any questions for us? Just put some questions up, and hopefully you can answer them.
Yeah. I know, like most podcasts, you know, usually generate a podcast at night, during the week, you know, during primetime hours or whatever. But I thought Sunday mornings, Deadman's Triad Wrestling Podcast, every Sunday morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Catch us either on Facebook or YouTube. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to the show, please subscribe. That'd be really helpful. That'll let you know when upcoming new videos that we have on our YouTube page. Go on Facebook with all the up-to-date information about our podcast will be posted on our Facebook page. We do have an email address. It's Deadman's Triad WP@gmail.com. That's our email address. So we're looking to try to get wrestlers as guests. You guys have any recommendations who we should try to get? Message us, either email me or give us a shout on Facebook. You know, hopefully from time to time we'll have some cool guests. And there's a lot of topics that we can generate and talk about. You know, over the years, a lot of things have happened, and there's some great moments in wrestling. We could talk about the greatest moments in wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few
all
other
right.
things.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead, guys, and play our exit video here. And I want to wish everybody a great rest of their Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I don't know. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Stay warm, be well, and stay safe out there, guys. All right. Take care.